A remarkable first season ever in Division 1 for Millwall, despite last Saturday's home defeat by West Ham. Their first home defeat of the season. They hold on to third place in the table. Tottenham, meanwhile, still feeling the pressure a little at the bottom after a remarkable week of their own. Getting 2 points back from the Football League, which had originally been deducted. But then losing 3 at Everton when Paul Gascoigne had a shot blocked almost on the line in the last few minutes. Just one change from that side at Goodison, though it is in fact the team which finished the match with Paul Walsh in the side now for Vinnie Samways, but much interest too in the substitutes. Not only young Mark Robson, but also Mohamed Amar, the Moroccan known more commonly as Nayim, who Terry Venables has brought from Barcelona, his former club. And he's promised that if things are going well, then we'll see him at some stage this afternoon. These are two of the players for Tottenham to keep an eye on though this afternoon. Number 9, Teddy Sheringham. Number 10, Tony Cascarino, got the goals between them, which lifted Millwall into the first division, and they've got 16 already at this level. And the number 7, Paul Stevenson, made a remarkable start to a goal at Liverpool of all places on his Millwall debut 3 weeks ago. So Millwall to get us going, albeit backwards, to Brian Horn. Favours the Dave Besant tactics of making as much ground as possible before sending his kick forward. Though Tottenham get a free kick at the end of that one. Mitchell Thomas appears to have switched to left back this afternoon, though he played over on the right up at Everton. And Gary Mabbutt was the left back. And a very good crowd in at White Hart Lane. Many of them, of course, wanting an away win rather than a home one. And here's Sheringham putting Bridie in, but being pulled back. A little unfortunately, really, because they clearly had the advantage, despite the foul. So Kevin O'Callaghan can send the kick into the far side where Sheringham and Cascarino are waiting. There'll be a lot of balls aimed towards their head. Here's one, and flicked on. No handball given against Stevenson. He turns inside nicely, and is blocked by Terry Fenwick. And Cascarino, in fact, offside, as Bobby Mimms eventually grabs it. Ball and leg, that is. But an early warning from Tony Cascarino. Mitchell Thomas then for Walsh, with Waddle outside him and Stewart up ahead. Keith Stevens cuts it out, as does Fenwick at the other end. Now Sheringham, crowded out. Waddle shrugging off one challenge. Here comes Herlock. But in fact it had gone out, and it's, I think, given Millwall's way. No, Chris Waddle has got it. And sends the throw towards the corner flag, and Paul Stewart. And Stewart past McCleary, and the chip to Walsh. And Brian Horn was scuttling across his goal, but I don't think he'd have got it. Nicely done by Paul Stewart. Walsh moves towards the edge of the 6-yard box. Fairclough the header. Waddle and Gascoigne teaming up again. Stewart out on the left, and Les Briley the foul. Briley and Herlock, two pretty fearsome competitors in the middle of the field for Millwall. Shaken up a few First Division midfields already this season, in every sense of the word. No problems for Brian Horn that time. One of the shortest goalkeepers in the First Division. But already an England under-21 international. Waddle overhead towards Stewart. Allen making tracks down the right, Walsh ahead of him. Riley caught by Stewart as he hooked it away, I think. And that's worth the booking for Paul Stewart and Mr. Axel. Worn out for the kick towards Sheringham, away by Fenwick. Stevenson just offside. Tottenham, I would think, pleased to have the height of Guy Butters in their defence today, because Millwall will aim a lot of these balls forward in the air for Cascarino and Sheringham. Waddle able to keep it in and to win the throw that time. These local derbies, of course, one of the great things for Millwall about getting into the First Division. Fairclough cuts that one out. They've beaten Queen's Park Rangers and Charlton before losing to West Ham last week. There's Walsh carrying Steve Wood. And Walsh doing well again as Herlock comes at him once more. Allen slips around Briley. Waddle arrives, evades the referee, and that is a marvellous goal by Chris Waddle. 25 yards. Looked as though the referee was going to take it off him at one stage, but has produced a marvellous left-footed shot. The build-up wasn't very clean, the referee was in his way, but that over Brian Horn. So just under 20 minutes played and Tottenham ahead as Stevenson goes at Fairclough looking for immediate reprisals, and Briley in there, the flag up for offside. Player's gone on and been pulled back. Marvellous effort then by Chris Waddle, who's really revelling in this free roll. Comes very deep a lot of the time to pick the ball up, but does enjoy finishing them. Mabbutt forward then. Briley And Ian Dawes, the former QPR left back, finding O'Callaghan. Useful one by Briley, just running away from Stevenson down in front of the Millwall supporters there. Gascoigne, a good header to his mate up the front. And Sheringham illegally slipping his man, Guy Butters. That's how deep Waddle is to get possession. Play a very ambitious one towards Gary Mabbutt, but Mabbutt was able to get the header in. Horns kick out, and again a little bit of trouble in the air. Callaghan putting Dawes in nicely. Not really a good enough cross. Taken out by his old QPR teammate Terry Fenwick. Callaghan getting it back from Briley and looking a little chip for Sheringham. Guy Butters at his back. Laid off for Briley and looking for the 1-2 in the box. Herlock finding Steve Wood. Here he is again. Waddle, an interesting one for Paul Stewart. Wood just got the touch. Stewart finding Mitchell Thomas, but Fenwick beckoning them a little closer before releasing the ball to Chris Waddle, who finds Paul Walsh, a nice turn. Stewart holding off his man, but it won't count, even if it gets there, which it just did in the end. Just see the arm, I think, holding off Keith Stevens, the fullback. Millwall straight back with Stevenson with Gascoigne up there, back for Briley and O'Callaghan. Callaghan's cross, and Mitchell Thomas plays safe. Wood, the number 5 forward then. As Millwall look for this equaliser. Plenty of big men in the penalty area. Mimms going backwards. Paul Allen decides to nudge it behind. O'Callaghan not required to come all the way over and take this one. He stays there. Goes deep again. And out for Herlock. And then O'Callaghan. Mitchell Thomas out. Giving Paul Walsh a chase against 2 defenders, one of whom Ian Dawes just gets the touch in. Wood looking for Stevenson, the two wingers having changed sides. It's been one of the most rewarding things about Millwall's play this season, the use of two wingers on a regular basis. And with the two strikers up the middle as well, in good goal-scoring form. They've played very few dull games. And here's a nice touch between the two of them. Gascoigne with room to cross. Away by Butters. And Gary Mabbutt just getting the tackle in. His throw. Stevenson trying to jink his way past his former teammate, Chris Waddle. A lot of old friendships being renewed today, or will be after the game perhaps. Walsh with Stewart breaking on the right, Mitchell Thomas on the left. Goes left. Thomas appeals for handball but doesn't get it. Gets a throw instead. Down by the tunnel. Hooked on by Walsh. Waddle against Ian Dawes, past Ian Dawes, against Stevenson, and past him as well. And Waddle's cross, which Wood puts behind. Good run by Chris Waddle. He's too exhausted to take the corner now. He's teed it up for his mate instead. Falls for Fairclough. And Gascoigne wins another one. Chris Waddle will take this one. Mitchell Thomas in there on the near post. Winning yet another. Waddle's kick once more. Horn does well to get to it at all with all those players in front of him. In fact, comes out of it with a goal kick. Handicapped a little bit by his height in those situations. So Chris Waddle's goal, keeping Tottenham ahead. As Fenwick plants the free kick, Stewart heads on. Fenwick again, Keith Stevens. Sheringham and Gascoigne, and back again. Riley couldn't get the shot in, O'Callaghan might. Appealing for offside, it's not given. As Hurlock charges in. Nicely played, out of trouble. And that one is offside. Well, Sheringham and Gascoigne have had their moments up there. Foul at the back of Paul Allen, as demonstrated by Gascoigne. He's taken some free kicks this afternoon, Terry Fenwick. That one's back out as far as Waddle. Richard Thomas trying to keep it in, with Walsh to help him. Millwall get a free kick out of it. Interesting away record. They've only won one, but only lost one. 5 draws away from home Millwall, so there are a few predicting another draw here today. At the moment Tottenham are ahead, although Chris Fairclough's made an interesting ball there. Wood beats Stewart, gets another header in. Now Allen with Waddle square of him. Gascoigne back to do a bit of chasing. Allen takes it up again. Gascoigne down in the corner. That's all he had to do to win the corner. Richard Thomas again just by the near post. Goes to the back post. Mabbutt. And Stewart and Thomas in there. And Dawes unable to get it away. Gascoigne now. A bender. Good effort. Kick against Terry Hurlock. Unbeaten run of 5 games halted at Everton when Tony Cottee scored last week. So still only 4 teams below Tottenham going into this afternoon's games, even with those 2 points claimed back, which had originally been deducted. Here they come again. Gascoigne allowed to go on, and Gascoigne rolls it across goal just in front of Paul Walsh. Well, it looked promising for a moment as Gascoigne burst on to Paul Stewart's pass. Hurlock and Stewart tussling this time. Hurlock allowed to play on. Chris Fairclough isn't after that challenge on Gascoigne. Bobby Mimms sorts out the wall. Five men in it. have almost as many to take it. And Mimms comfortable in the end. Gascoigne hounded by Herlock again. Not made many new friends here, although he rarely does on his travels. John Doherty, the Millwall manager, would say that's not what he's there for. Now Mabbutt winding himself up for a long one. Stewart looking for the back header. Waddle. 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 dummies. A foul by Paul Allen. Moving towards half-time then, with Tottenham holding on to Chris Waddle's goal. Butters forward. Cleary rolls it to Stevenson. Stevens, the fullback, in support. And Sheringham. And Tottenham would quite like to hear the half-time whistle as Stevenson clips it over, and Gascoigne, well, got up for it and got the header in, even if he couldn't put it where he wanted it. That's the last moment of the half. Chris Waddle's marvellous goal, giving Tottenham the advantage, but they know it won't be easy holding on to it in the second half against this extremely determined Millwall side. Half-time though, it's 1-0. Tottenham then attacking the Park Lane end. Even if it's Millwall supporters up there today. They will have swollen this to a pretty good attendance. Cascarino's header. Sheringham trying to play it off his chest. Had some very good home results. And of course went top of the table when they beat Queen's Park Rangers after getting 3 early goals, as they did against Luton. Newcastle conceded 4 at the Den as well. Away from home they haven't been able to dominate matches in quite the same way, and they're trading now as they face up to this free kick. Gascoigne and Waddle both there with Terry Fenwick. Going to work it out between them. And it's Waddle. And just over the top. And I think it's become a deliberate ploy to almost not decide until the last moment which of them hits it from those free kicks. There was a goal against QPR recently when the goalkeeper seemed convinced that Waddle would strike it, and Gascoigne did and scored. Gascoigne again, an interesting one. Stewart not quite arriving in time to get the touch. Well, he keeps things lively, Paul Gascoigne. Now Stevens, the fullback. Riley leaves it. Then it kicks it away. Paul Allen on the break. Stewart, did he keep that in? Yes. Dawes attempting to block him one way or another. No foul given, as Paul Stewart's discussed. Waddle on the far side, Walsh in front of him. Looking for Walsh, and that's interesting, with Gascoigne up there. Couldn't quite cut it back to him. Wood takes charge and finds Sheringham. Terry Venables to his feet to offer a little more encouragement. Fairclough getting out of trouble in the end. Stewart offside. Interesting to see whether we do see the Moroccan. Sheringham. And now O'Callaghan, who goes down. Mabbutt saying, I took the ball, not the legs. Mr. Axel's not impressed. A lot of blue shirts forward then. Pressure on, and that's Gascoigne. Looks as if he was going to win it again for a moment. Fouled by Gascoigne. The referee saw the funny side, fortunately. But this is an interesting position for Millwall. Hurlock's floater, and again Gascoigne arriving, but unable to force it forward. Indoors towards Sheringham. Butters away. Now Waddle. For Walsh. Stopped by McCleary, who then finds touch. Richard Thomas then, looking for a long one. Well headed by McCleary, but back in by Allen, and Stewart trying to get on the end. made by Paul Allen. And Stewart and Gascoigne. And Stewart again. Sent tumbling by Stevens. And stays down. Well played referee from Paul Gascoigne. So another Waddle Gascoigne kick. It's Gascoigne and it's in. And Brian Horn completely caught out. It was Gascoigne who hit it that time, and Brian Horn was still lining up his wall when it suddenly arrived. Well, he won't be pleased with that. As in the last home game against QPR, Waddle and Gascoigne on the score sheet. A little bit of frustration at the other end. And Les Briley, the Millwall captain, the man who's in trouble. But the buzz around the ground still for Paul Gascoigne's direct free kick just after the hour, struck past Brian Horn into the corner. Becomes something of a speciality. Now Mabbutt. Briley away. Mabbutt's back in there. And Steve Wood clears. Mabbutt again. And now Hurlock. So are Millwall going to be able to bring themselves back into this? Haven't created too many clear chances so far. And this man is right on song. Stevens. There he is again. Walsh, a nice turn away from Ian Dawes in a shooting position. And it's beginning to flow for Tottenham. Foul given against Butters. Millwall had a good number of free kicks too in this position, but not made quite so much of them, despite the abilities in the air they've got there. Paul Allen, Walsh offside. Further out than usual to send that one forward. Sheringham's on the end of it after Cascarino's little flick. But Fenwick away from him. So Danny Sulman, the former Brentford player, replacing Ian Dawes, the former QPR man. And immediately demanding a bit more effort from everybody. Quite sure about the significance of the change, because Solman is basically a defensive player. We'll see how Millwall sort themselves out in these last 20 minutes. In fact, it looks like a straight change, with Solman going to left back. O'Callaghan and a Tottenham free kick again. Fenwick forward, off Walsh's chest. Terry Hurlock, he'll keep going right to the end. That's an interesting one, and Mimms has come a very long way, and Millwall claim he took it outside his box. The referee and linesman don't agree. Come a very long way to go for that one. Stewart now and Walsh. Nicely for Paul Allen, with Gascoigne claiming he was impeded. But if he does keep shouting at referees, he will get into trouble eventually. Fortunately, this one is prepared to see the funny side most of the time. It's a lovely touch. And now Mabbutt. Waddle takes it up again. Well, the two Tottenham subs both going through their exercises. Be interesting to see whether either of them does get on for the first time in a full league game. Young Mark Robson, signed from Exeter, although he is a London lad. And Nayim, as I think we'll end up calling him, the Moroccan. And that's bouncing everywhere. Stewart against Wood. Solman comes back, and they're in terrible trouble as Walsh looked for all the world as if he was going to poke in a third. Well, Solman came back and they got in more trouble than they'd been in the first place. Quick thinking by Walsh, and it looks as if it was going in, but suddenly bounced the wrong way. A corner instead. Hurlock deceiving Waddle and finding Teddy Sheringham. Briley takes it up. O'Callaghan really would bring the game to life again if Millwall got one back, but instead they're in danger of conceding one. Gascoigne going all the way. Surely he's not going to score here. Oh! Well, that would have been one of the goals of the season. Brian Horn denying us that pleasure. But what a run it was. Gascoigne gets a corner instead. Thomas at the near post, but it across the line. Still no sign that either of the substitutes are going actually to appear. Millwall, of course, have Neil Ruddock, briefly a Tottenham player, on their bench as well. Do you imagine how much he'd like to get on? Ball back, please. Danny Sorman has got it at last. Free kick given against Materi for a little nudge. A lot of free kicks this afternoon, which haven't helped the flow, but when they're close to goal like this, they often lead to an opportunity. It's Waddle's turn rather than Gascoigne's to have a go. He must be very tempted from that angle. In fact, it's Gascoigne jumping the queue. Mitchell Thomas, Waddle, well kept in. Paul Allen towards Mabbutt. And now Gascoigne. Mabbutt quickly back to get after him. Millwall throw. Sheringham. Stevens again. And Hurlock's chip forward, dangerous for Briley. Well taken by Mimms. Wasn't very pleased with the linesman. Ruled that Briley was onside. Oh, that's allowed to go on, which is extraordinary. O'Callaghan. There'll be a row if they score here. Gascoigne. They're not going to. Thought a Tottenham substitution might just pep things up again, but perhaps Terry Venables is perfectly happy with the way things are going. It's just a little bit of a danger of it falling flat over the last 10 minutes or so. Throw in from the wrong place, I think, by Stevens. Waddle and Stewart. And Stewart past his man. Walsh is there. Paul Allen. And Gascoigne gives it and keeps going. Wobbling away from Terry Fenwick. Official attendance, in fact, 27,660, which is, what, the third best of the season. Sheringham offside. I would think the Tottenham contingent amongst those 27,000 happy enough with the way things have gone. Been some rich entertainment, as much in individual skills as in actual goalmouth incident. Now Hurlock, Butters, Fairclough struggling slightly, and Gascoigne was almost in for a minute, but Terry Fenwick was in with him too. Going up the line for Mitchell Thomas, dragged down by Stevenson. Paul Walsh thinking about a quick one. Decides to leave it instead. Well, surely they're not going to try and curl it in from here. Chris Waddle gets this one all to himself. Here's his aid. Beaten this time by Hurlock. Butters in, has been solid at the back again. Not too many chances for Gascoigne and Sheringham at all. Here's Stevenson, and Stevenson going all the way. Just forced one step wide at the last moment. Ball from Waddle to Gascoigne, completely unmarked. Once more, Butters wins it. Callaghan now. And again it was Butters getting the little flick which counted. Stevenson goes down. Thomas and Allen get the ball. Mitchell Thomas goes the wrong way. He concedes the free kick. And Hurlock. And the tired chip forward, that one. And he's in on Chris Waddle very late. He will collect a booking for it. The last 5 minutes then, the name of Terry Hurlock noted, and Millwall may well feel that this game has gone now at 2 down. Got 2 goals back against Nottingham Forest earlier in the season. That was in the Den. Be quite a story if they do that now. Chris Waddle enjoying the rest, I think, at the moment. But he's had a good afternoon. There's Walsh. Offside Stewart. Now Gascoigne and Stevenson. Stevenson, who looks as though he's going to come off worst in his first 2 London derbies, following the West Ham game last week. And it doesn't look as though we're going to see either of those substitutes after all. No doubt another day. Allen not getting the corner. Horn's goal kick. And the whistle's beginning around the ground as Herlock chips one in towards Gascoigne. But again, Fenwick guarding him well. They've been pretty well marked, the 2 strikers. Certainly not had as much joy as against a number of other teams this season. No joy at all for Millwall. Goals by the 2 Geordies deciding the London derby. Paul Gascoigne's brilliant free kick for the second, after Chris Waddle's equally spectacular first. Paul Gascoigne in particular has enjoyed his afternoon and has provided a great deal of enjoyment for the crowd. Tottenham perhaps on their way again to better things, a thoroughly deserved victory by 2-0.